This is the Balanced Advisor Podcast with Dr. Travis Perry, helping financial advisors like you achieve balance in their lives.
Everyone, welcome to another episode of the Balanced Advisor Podcast. I am joined with Mr. Brad Wales. I've been excited to interview him. It's been a little while that we've been kind of getting this started, but Brad is the founder of Transition to RIA. It's a consulting firm uniquely focused on helping established financial advisors understand everything there is to know about why and how to transition their practice to the RIA model. Brad utilizes his nearly 20 years of industry experience, including direct RIA-related roles in compliance, finance, and business development, to provide development advice regarding how advisors can benefit from the advantages of the RIA model. Welcome, Brad, to the show.
Travis, happy to be here. I'm a fan of your work, so I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, man. This is great. I always like to ask the question, like, how did you become a consultant in the firm? Were you an advisor first? Like, what was the pathway that got you to what you're doing now?
A couple different reasons, which for time, I won't go into all of them, but part of it was lifelong entrepreneurial itch to want to have my own business. And so I spent almost 20 years in a corporate environment, working for other people, and a lot to learn from that. But at the end of the day, the overarching thing was just wanting to go out on my own, and then quite frankly, seeing a need for the service that I now provide out there. So when the stars start to line up on that, and it's still a scary leap for anyone, right, that's made the jump, and now I can speak firsthand about it in whatever capacity, whether that's a small business owner in whatever industry. It's not easy, but it's extraordinarily rewarding when it works out.
Yeah. I mean, but this industry, we're unique, right? We like to think we're unique as advisors, and we are kind of a different bunch. We come from different backgrounds. There's no like one specific way into this industry. Like what made you think, all right, I need to help advisors specifically?
Yeah. So, a funny maybe story of just how I got into this industry in general. And I'm not going to walk everyone through my entire lifetime, but literally back in college, early in my college years, I didn't know what I necessarily wanted to do. I think that's at times typical. So I'm taking the core classes and that sort of thing. And it's funny, the story, as you're about to find out, has a different connotation than it did 5, 10, 15 years ago. But one morning I was in the waiting between classes or something. I was in the university bookstore, and they had a used book rack. And it's crazy that I remember this so vividly, but it did impact my life. And so there I am wasting time. I'm looking at the used book rack, and there was a book, and it was like $3 or $4. I mean, it was super cheap. It was used. It was a paperback. I bought that book. That book, I was fascinated by it, got me entirely into business, entirely excited about all the different ways you could go into different industries. And that book was Trump's The Art of the Deal. And so when I told that story, up until he became president, and obviously there's a whole new feelings about Trump left or right, but it's regardless of what you think of the guy, I think it's an excellent book and had a big impact on me. So anyway, so that gave me a business mindset. I finished my schooling, and then through part of my school, I realized I wanted to be in financial services, entered that, like I said, 20 years in. And then that's just evolved, as has the industry, more into an RA focus. So weird to say I maybe owe some of where I'm at to Trump, but and that's not in support or against him. It's just it's a totally different story than it used to be 10 years ago. So.
Yeah, that's fascinating, man. I appreciate you sharing, as it's an interesting experience now with everything being so political either way. But I mean, as far as business success, like you can't doubt that on Trump's side, regardless if you like his policies as president or whatever, that's left a big impact on you. So that's great. I'm always just excited to know, like, what are other people doing? Because I know how I got here as an advisor myself, wanting to improve it, right? Improve the industry. And so knowing that you're here and wanting to do the same, I just love it and love rubbing shoulders with you. So thank you for what you do. I always like to start off with kind of the next major question here. talking about, balance. So this is my concern. I have achievingBalanceBook.com. You can order the book here and get it in all sorts of forms now. But that's kind of my passion, is helping advisors have balance. So I love to know, what's your definition of balance? How do you view it? If somebody said, all right, Brad, tell me what balance is, what would you typically tell them?
That's a great question. And maybe I'll give you what I think of balance, and then I'll give you maybe an example that I recently came across of what I would say is not balance. But I guess at the end of the day, in both of these examples will show balance. It, in my opinion, is what's important to you individually. And so what's important to me might be different than what's important to someone else. But I think I probably had a bigger reflection on balance in my life just in the last couple of years. So I have one child, he's 16. He's about to start his junior year in high school. And so he's at this point only has 2 years left before he goes on, off to college, moves out of the house. And I kind of had the realization just a couple of years ago that even then it occurred to me that here I am grinding away at my job I had, working long hours, trying to get ahead. And I was missing, he plays baseball as his major sport. And I was missing opportunities to see him play because I was so concentrated on work. And it occurred to me that, as I say, I'm on the clock. I'm still on the clock. I only have so many baseball games left that he's going to play in his life that I can go see. There's only so many things I can do with him left. And I realized I have to find that balance, because once that time's up, I can never get it back. And so that was the big realization for me, from a balance of work and family of again, I call it, I'm on the clock. And not that once my son's gone, not that I still don't need balance with my wife, but certainly do. But that was kind of the realization, maybe the first time in my life, of how important balance was. But then I'll give you an example that and again, to each their own, but this was just the other day. I'm on YouTube, and of course it's always amusing what YouTube suggests in the feed for you. And I came across, I won't name names. I certainly don't remember the gentleman's name. I won't even name firms, but he was an investment banker, successful investment banker at one of the large, well-known firms. Everyone would recognize the firm. It's irrelevant, but just one of the large firms. And this video was a lecture that he was given to an MBA class at one of the Ivy League schools about what it's like to be an investment banker. And of course, there's probably a lot of people in that audience that are interested in pursuing that role. That's why they're here to see the guy. And don't get me wrong, the guy was extraordinarily impressive, from credentials to what he's done in his life to how well spoken he is. But he was talking about what it takes to be a successful investment banker. And I'm sitting there thinking, my God, I never in a million years would I want that role, where he's talking about having to respond to emails at 3 a.m. in the morning, and you need to respond within 30 seconds of the time that you get the email. And he's going on and almost like, I don't want to say bragging about it, but he didn't seem, that was his life that he lived in. And someone asked the question, how do you, I don't know if they phrased it exactly this, but basically said, how do you find balance in your life when you're telling us you're basically working relentlessly nonstop? And he was a father, by the way. He had mentioned that he had kids. And so he talked about the way his balance and his opinion, and this worked for him, again, teach zone, was he said, I make sure that I 20 minutes a day get to do a certain thing. And I protect that 20 minutes religiously. And at first I'm thinking, my God, the 20 minutes is all that you consider balance. And surely I thought balance was to spend time with his kids, and it was like to ride his bike or something like that. And I don't know. So it was just a thought that, man, I applaud this guy. Never in a million years do I want to be that guy, but it shows you that the definition of balance is different to different people. That's for sure.
Yeah, it really is. And I think you nailed what I have experienced by interviewing so many advisors, over 200 advisors and advisors to advisors, about what's their definition. And it's doing the most important things. So we may assume that, well, he's got kids, so he's a father, and that would be most important, or whatever, time with his wife. But really, he values that bike time, right? Which I do too. Like, I enjoy riding my bike. That's really super important to me. And it's really, comes down to individual personality and priority. I'm big on, hey, what is your highest priorities? But what we found in the research is that balance really is doing your highest priorities, making sure that you take care of that. So for you, I can tell, like, I've got time, it's finite to be with my son, my wife, to continue that balance, obviously, but that's really hit you. And I know for a lot of advisors, that's where I typically have discussion around their older kids starting to see that they're going to grow up and leave the home or getting ready to launch. And it's a stark reality, right? Of coming to that point. So I appreciate you sharing that, man.
Yeah. I even heard a tip once for parents. I've never done it, and I forgot what it was, but you're supposed to put marbles in a jar for every holiday, a Thanksgiving or an Easter or something like that your kids are for sure still going to be able to celebrate with you before they maybe go and have their own life. So next time, Halloween comes along or Easter comes along and you're not real gung ho about doing something exciting or special with them, it's like, well, keep in mind, there's going to come a time there's only a few marbles left in that jar and you're going to wish you had those opportunities back. So different ways to look at it.
Absolutely. That's a really good way to look at it, to kind of see visually what's going on. There's some wonderful things to do, spending time. I try, we have 6 children, 1 on the way. And so it's like, well, how do you spend time with all your kids? Well, I actually each week will try to take 1 or 2 of my children and say, okay, we're going to do something specifically for you. I don't like fishing. But yesterday I fished with my son for almost 2 hours, and it's because it's like get the reel and get the worm and squish it on there and everything that grandpa taught me and my dad taught me when I was a kid. I just don't really like fishing, but he loves it. He wants to get to catch a fish. We don't even eat fish, but it's just fun, right? Like you're going to catch and release. And, so this whole thing just reminds me as I'm driving home, like, it matters to him and it's important and I'm doing what he likes to do. And so I really have to make an effort to spend the time doing the things that they like to do so that we have that bond, we have that relationship. So I appreciate you bringing that up. All right, man. As an advisor to advisors, well, actually, let me ask you this question. As an advisor to advisor, you're constantly seeing other advisors out there, and you are in the industry, right? Whether you like it or not, welcome. You're in this industry. So, you act oftentimes, maybe mirror and reflect what's going on in the industry. What do you think are some of the biggest issues that you face trying to achieve balance, as you described it? What are some of your personal, like, oh man, I do this and I struggle with that? Maybe the top 1 or 2 things.
Yeah, so I can relate to that, perhaps being a business owner now. So not that I wasn't given my all back when I was, in a corporate environment, but as a business owner, and Travis, you certainly know, you're all hands on deck. You have a lot of responsibilities and a lot of kind of unlimited opportunity, perhaps too. And so I think the challenge is, we all could perhaps put in more time and perhaps be more successful and make more money. And the problem is, when does that ever end? And so we always do want more. I'm not complacent. I'm not satisfied, where I'm at. I do want to do better, but I have seen folks that I think they struggle to take their foot off the gas on that. And you just say, well, when's it going to end? Do you do it right up to the deathbed and, well, at least your beneficiaries have more money to receive, upon your death, but where does it end? And so I think that's the thing I don't want to say I struggle with, but I'm certainly personally myself cognizant of. And then because I talk to advisors that are going down the pathway of being small business owners as well, that's certainly a thing that comes up at times, is how are you going to balance your drive? And you do need drive to be successful with the other things that are important in your life.
Yeah. I often hear this sentiment with other business owners who ask themselves, when is enough enough?
Yep.
Right. And advisors tell me the same thing. Well, how far do I want to scale this? And how big do I want to build it? When is enough enough? As a business owner, you're constantly checking yourself, right? And asking yourself, when is enough enough? So with that, like, what do you find on that same vein? What do you find is a stumbling block for you to know, okay, it's time to be done? Like it's time to be done with the work. It's time to be, doing things that I should be doing outside of work. What do you think catches you up the most?
That's a great question, because I won't say that I have the perfect answer to it either. Sometimes I think we can recognize it on our own, and sometimes it might be a matter of needing people to point it out to us, whether that's a spouse, a colleague, a business partner. I'll give you a story. There's an advisor I recall years ago, quite successful, building a practice. I think at the time he was 400 million plus in assets. So certainly that's quite commendable, put a lot of effort. But every single time I talked to him, he was absolutely stressed out beyond belief, because he was always adding something more to the mix. He was trying to grow something. He's going in 18 different directions. And I remember thinking, man, he's going to literally have a heart attack because of the stress he was always under. And maybe I failed him I didn't call him out on that and try to point that out. I wasn't, perhaps close enough from a personal level to try to say, hey, you maybe reset here, rethink, and maybe shame on me for not doing that. But I think sometimes you maybe need, he certainly, I don't think could accomplish it on his own, or at least not without some more soul searching or learning from folks like you, Travis, that can help him identify that. And likewise, I don't know if people were pointing out to him he was ignoring them, or he just was unaware. But I think some we can do ourselves, and sometimes we maybe need other people to help us realize.
A really good point. You brought up spouse, business partners, maybe associates. Like, do we have an obligation to if we're friends with someone, what is that phrase? Like friends don't let friends.
Yeah.
And maybe that's something that we need to bring up more often. Friends don't let friends go out of balance, right? And or at least become workaholics. Like, we go in and out of balance. That's not it. Like, I'm out of balance a lot of the time, but I'm trying to achieve it. Like, it's a constant game of back and forth. But to be a total workaholic, answering emails 3 a.m. And just never letting the business, have boundaries. I think that's what you were saying kind of earlier, is just knowing when to stop, creating those boundaries. What has helped you to have those boundaries, to make sure that you are stopping, to making sure that you're not carrying this too far, that you have a good sense of balance?
Just to go back to that baseball example with my son, I recall sitting in restaurants on the road on a work travel, and my wife's trying to give me a live shot of his at bat, and here I am, sitting in a restaurant yet again on the road, and maybe shame on me for needing something like that to trigger that perspective in my life that I didn't see it otherwise. Because he's been in my life a long time. My wife's been in my life a long time. Why was it only just a couple of years ago that occurred to me? But I'm thankful it did occur. And I think for different folks, it could be different things. And so I think, a lot of the work you do is helping maybe people realize stuff that it's not even occurring to them. I needed that trigger point, and was fortunate that it just presented itself, but I could see where that doesn't always happen, and people need to soul search, and like I said, the guidance you give, I think, helps them on that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And you kind of brought up this next point of what other advisors do, like the friends don't let friends, lose balance. But so, talking about that, what have you seen, like with other advisors? What are some of the 1, 2, 3, major issues that you've seen working with advisors? Because, they may not get back to you. They may struggle. They may forget. They, have a lot going on, maybe too much, right, as they're trying to make this transition. But during, that interaction with them, what are the most just pointed biggest issues you've seen with advisors trying to keep their own balance?
Well, I want to say I've seen it's harsh to say the good and the bad, but there certainly are advisors that, and I'm sure it took them quite a while to refine this, that do have a very refined process, and they do have a very good team in place and a very good way they go about doing things. And they don't respond to certain things on certain days of the week because they're focused on other things. And I applaud them for having that discipline And I'm sure that did not happen overnight. I'm sure there are a lot of motivators that caused them to build all that out. Some probably maybe just naturally good at that sort of thing. So to be sure, there are some folks I think of advisors have done a wonderful job at that. And then quite frankly, there's others. And again, I'm not one to call anyone out because I needed to kind of learn the lesson myself, in the past, but talking to an advisor that part of the reason he's looking to kind of make a move and build out his team is because he's just, and this is the separate advisor that I kind of referenced earlier, is just so overwhelmed with the work and the stress. And it's just like, hey, you've got to do something different. This is not sustainable. But the irony of it is his capacity. And I'm sure you have some great advice on this, is capacity to fix his problem. He doesn't really have much opportunity, whether it's talking to someone like me or someone else, because his plate is so full that he's barely keeping his head above water. But it's like, but unless you take some time to try to fix the status quo, it's not going to get any better. But he always says, I don't have the time. And it's this almost like endless loop that unless you're willing to buy in to say, okay, let's do something about this, I think it's easy to get caught on that flywheel.
Yep. I call it the workaholic trap. And that's exactly what you defined, is like, I'm trying to get ahead, but I can't get ahead. The broker dealers tell us when we first get started, you just 5-10 years, then everything will be smooth. Somebody yesterday in an interview that I did for the book was telling me what he was told is, at the beginning of this industry, in our work as advisors, we are underpaid and overworked. At the latter part of this industry, we are overpaid and underworked. And there's some truth to that. And then the question I usually pose is, but at what cost, right? At what cost is it? Is it at the cost of going to ball games? Is it at the cost of being there for, your wife who's feeling like she's a single mom with the kids, or whatever the issue is? There is a cost. And, that's why I wanted to find a better way. How do we get out of this workaholic trap before I even got in it? And for me, it took my father passing away to me say enough's enough, right? And in some aspects, it did kind of save me from going crazy. And my wife, she was like, hey, you're not seeing us anymore. What's going on? You graduated from school. I thought this would be over. So, there's that point. So I appreciate you bringing up your own catalyst. Like, I can relate to you being there in that restaurant and going, gee, I need to make a change. I was there and I get it. But I think sounding the alarm to others who maybe we are that alarm, right? Maybe reading the book or maybe working with you to try to get past this overwhelm, because I see it all the time. It's the overwhelm that some really good advisors get burned out, just like really good athletes, like in high school, like, yeah, I'm done. Well, wait, what? You're 6'5", 250. You're supposed to be a lineman. Yeah, no, I'm done playing football. I had this happen to a client, a son who said, yeah, he's just done. And the motivation is gone. Like, it's true. Like, this is real. It's overwhelm. It's stressful. It's burnout. And it can happen to financial advisors. So I appreciate you bringing that up. What other issues do you see besides the overwhelm, maybe lack of discipline, anything else that you see that really contributes to lack of balance for advisors?
Yeah, no, like I said, it's not all negative traits. Just again, I think there's some very advisors that are go-getters, and they want to strive and they want to be twice as big as they are today, and they want to be 4 times as big down the road. And it's a competitive thing, both personally, and then they see their peers. And so, that's not an unhealthy thing as long as you have some guardrails on it. So it's certainly not a negative thing to say I don't have balance in my life, but you also, that pendulum can swing the other way to be too much of a, well, and again, it's tough to each their own. I'm personally selfishly glad that Elon Musk is, as I observe him to be, the most ridiculous workaholic on the planet. And yes, amen. I just interrupt you. We interrupt this program. Just say yes. That we all gain from his brilliance and all that he does. And I think we'll gain from that for decades to come. But I think he's got, so not everything's family. I don't want to keep harping on that, but I think he has like 6 sons or 5 sons. I mean, some crazy number. And I don't know how often he sees his family because he's running multiple companies. He's doing so much. And again, selfishly, I'm cheering him on because he's making society better. But the definition of balance to that guy is, I'd love to ask him his, I'm sure you would do, what is his definition of balance? And is he satisfied with his current balance? Well, I hope he is.
And here is a business owner that we all can say, man, he's done incredible things, right? He's getting people to space. He's getting, electric cars becoming the norm, like Tesla. I refer to Tesla almost every day as a standard in scaling a business and how to market things correctly, because they've done it. Like they've disrupted a, 100 and something 50, 60-year-old market, right? That where he's become the Tesla, not him, but Tesla has become the fastest growing car company in the world. So to be able to do that is just phenomenal. Yet, like a year or so ago, I specifically called him out. Like, I'm sure he never reads anything that I say, but I specifically called him out because he, it's one thing to say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take this on and I'm going to lead out in this way. But then he's actually suggesting that people work 90-hour weeks. And that's where that crosses the line. Because I'll never tell you, Brad, you should only work this many hours. Like, I'll never do that. Because it's all about your values, your priorities. That's where you feel balanced, right? For me, I work 35. I'm good. Like if I work more than that, it's not good for my family, for my own time, for my health. But working 90 hours, I can't imagine. I would be dead, most likely. So he's doing a lot, but to then for him to go out and tell other people and only way to be successful is this, that's where I draw the line. No, thanks. And I will call him out every time on that, regardless of what his fantastic, achievements. And I think you bring up a really good point. The point that I think is worth talking about here is that advisors are incredibly competitive, right? And, I just had someone again the other day I was interviewing for the book say, I don't go to the industry conferences. I don't go to get pats on the back. I don't care about that anymore. But I think a lot of advisors need that. Like they feel they need that peer acknowledgement of what they're doing, and they want to be top of the table, or they want to be one of the best advisors out there and be recognized. And so there's, Vestopedia has their list, and there's all sorts of other ways to get accolades inside your broker dealer, et cetera. So that said, it's possible, maybe you're onto something here too, that's not all bad. It's good to have the pressure. It's good to have the competitive, but maybe it's a little bit unhealthy when it's so focused on that one way only. And some might likely have a little bit of an ego thing to try and make sure that they are the best of the best all the time. And so that they lose the balance because they're trying to prove a point, which, can definitely drive one out of balance for sure. I like that. I like that you brought that up. And I like that you're, saying, hey, this isn't always negative. It definitely can be positive, but that pendulum can definitely swing. And we've seen that. These are great comments. I want to kind of wrap up with you telling us a little bit about how you help advisors with their balance, because I know, right pre-show, you're even giving me an example of what you do and how you're helping advisors to really gain, balance. You were talking right now about the overwhelm, but specifically, how do you help advisors transition to their own RIA? And how can you do that with helping them keep balance? Because I know I did this and I lost my balance because of it. I was like trying to find it, but starting my own business and doing it probably the wrong way. Guaranteed the wrong way. I was so focused on what it looked like, the office, the logo, the business, the accountant, the legal team, that I lost my balance on, trying to scale it, and it wasn't good.
Yeah, I think, none of us fully know what we're doing. There's no, maybe Elon Musk knows how to start a new company and knows how to do it right in every imaginable way because he's been so successful with so many companies. But for most people that haven't started that many businesses in life, I think it's certainly figuring it out and being humble about that reality. And with advisors, so in short, I help advisors transition their practice to the RA model. Now, one of the reasons advisors frequently are attracted to the RA model is the extra flexibility the model gives you. And so to go back to the example I gave a little bit ago about how there are advisors I've seen that are extraordinarily well-structured, well-organized in their practice, and likewise don't have high levels of stress because they've built out this great apparatus. They've built out a great team, a great service offering for their clients. And arguably, and it's self-serving for me to point it out because this is what I help people with, but that RA model gives you as an advisor the most flexibility of what you want to do with your practice that could solve for a number of things you might be trying to solve for. But from a balance perspective, when you're as your own RA, it is your firm. You're a small business owner. You're entirely independent. Now, yes, there's some regulatory constraints and certain rules of the road, but for the most part, you have the flexibility to build a business that works for you and that creates that balance in your life. And not that, someone at a more traditional broker dealer firm certainly shouldn't still try to find balance in their life. And I hope they do. But arguably in that RAA model, because of that increased flexibility, it gives you even more ability to manage those things that are most important to you and to build something out. So that's rewarding from my perspective to see advisors be able to achieve. And then as a business owner myself, it's always fun to see other advisors becoming business owners as well, and having the challenges that come with that, but certainly the joys as well.
Yeah, it is 100%. I agree. Like leaving my broker dealer was the best thing I could have done. But I think there was a short blip where I lost all sense of balance for a while because it was like, oh my goodness, I've got to get the right office space and everything built out the way it needed to be. And then I almost lost my sense of marketing for a while because it was like you built the back end, but what about the front end? Then you've got the front end that you're working on and you're bringing over your clients from your previous, that are wanting to come. And so there's a lot of hassle. I mean, what way specifically do you help that RIA, who's wanting to make this leap, who's wanting to transition? Maybe they don't know if they're ready. Maybe we'll start there. Like, how do they know they're ready to do this? What are you typically seeing advisors who are like, yeah, okay, it's time for you to do this? Do they have to be overwhelmed? Do they, talk us through that?
Yeah, there's all kinds of motivators, and I'm a straight shooter. Look, it's not for everyone. Whether an advisor realizes it or not, some already know it because of the characteristics of the model. Some come to discover that because they talk to me and they realize, okay, here's the pros, here's the cons, and let's compare that to what you have now. So I never suggest that it's for everyone, but for advisors where it is a good fit, well, the next thing is, okay, first understanding it. Okay, now it is a good fit. It can be very overwhelming to think, well, how am I going to transition into that? I don't care how green the grass is on the other side. That is a scary thing. It's can seem overwhelming to transition through it, and to be sure, your balance will take a hit during that transition process. I don't sugarcoat it at all. It's a lot of work, but the key is, and I can give you an analogy, but it's always, I think, to have the reminder that, okay, and Travis, I welcome your thoughts on this, is to accept that for a temporary period of time, you're going to go off balance to a degree because you have to make a transition, but you cannot lose sight of the goal to get back to a certain point in a certain place you want to be in. And at least for me, mentally, if something has a finite time length, I can perhaps be more tolerant of something and work towards it. And I think the challenge is just to be true to yourself. And after you get over that hump, to find that place again, to make sure you're not just, that flywheel is just not perpetually spinning for years to come, and you end up losing out on these important things we talk about in life. But the quick analogy I'll give, I use this in a number of instances in my conversations, is refinancing a mortgage, if you're trying to get a lower interest rate on your mortgage, there's absolutely nothing fun about refinancing a mortgage. Everything about it's horrible. You got the process. It takes time. It takes money. Usually something's lost along the way. It goes on and on. You got deadlines. But once it's done, and once you're on the other side, and once you're saving money on your mortgage every month, I've never heard of anyone that said, and again, after the dust has settled, that they regret having gone through that. And so as long as the end game, I think, justifies kind of going off balance, I think it's worth it. And that is what advisors need to keep in mind to transition to the RA model, that it is going to be a mountain to climb, but you come down the other side in due time.
See, I love what you said there about temporarily, like it's okay, especially if you have a, defined period of time, 3 months, 6 months, whatever, we're going to have to spend this much time doing that. I get it. The justification would be, for a lot of people, it's kind of like, I'm just talking the other side, because I agree with you. I actually think that's okay. If there's a temporary time period where you're going to be out of balance, whatever. I know an advisor who's traveling abroad right now. She's in Europe and she's working because she's always wanted that experience, and she can. Good for her. That's fantastic. But I know that, it's a little bit out of balance because she's working with clients mainly in the United States, right? So it's a time difference. It's a little bit different there for her. So the balance is kind of messed up. But that's a 2-month time period, and she's going to come back. So that's an example I think of. However, I also, throw a warning flag up there. If you're a workaholic already and you're going to, have this idea of, well, transitioning is, for a short period of time, even though I'm going to be even more out of balance, is not going to be a problem. Warning flag. It's likely like someone who's already an alcoholic walking down the street at the bars late at night. Like, it's the smell, the aroma, the being with friends, whatever it is, you're likely going to take a sip and you're likely going to slip. And that's kind of what the warning is out there, is take along a buddy. So having someone like you, that's where I can see the difference. The difference was I was doing that on my own. Like, I got this. Like, no one needs to help me. I'm going to figure it out. I was young and dumb. And the more that I experienced, I realized I would never do that again. If I had to go back and become an advisor, I would absolutely have someone like you help me transition to that. So what do you do? What are an advisors ready for that experience? Tell us, kind of the steps of like how you would guide them, so they're not this aimless, workaholic who's walking down, and get caught up in all this business and lose themselves too much with the justification. I'll get back to it in a few months, right? So obviously having deadlines, having dates, having someone guide them through that is awesome, but walk us through that experience.
Yes, I'll tell you what I tell my non-industry friends or family members when they ask what it is I do, because I just, those of us in the industry, we all understand what we're talking about. If I talk about the RIA and the SEC and FINRA, but outside of it, of course, you can quickly lose them. So when those folks ask me what it is I do, the example I give, and I'm not equating advisors to McDonald's managers, but I think you'll understand the analogy that I say, okay, imagine you're the manager of a McDonald's and you've been doing it 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, whatever the case is. You're extraordinarily good at it. You know how to make the food, you know how to hire employees, you know how to run the store, everything. You're fantastic at it. Well, so now though, after all those years, now imagine you want to own a McDonald's. Well, just because you're fantastic at managing one, there's nothing someone like me could teach you how to better manage it. Well, that none of that has prepared you to understand, well, how do I get a franchise? How do I get finance for it? How do I get a location? How do I get McDonald's to approve me? And so that's what I do for advisors. There's just fantastic, folks out there to help you with different parts of your practice. I'm not a marketing guru. I'm not a practice management guru. But what I'm saying is for advisors that have only ever been in one, type of firm or one affiliation model their whole time, there's no reason all of your experience has most likely not exposed you to how the RA model works. And so that is what I help with, is first, let's understand what is the RA model? Why is it people are moving to it? What are the pros, the cons as well, the responsibilities, the economics, flexibility, all that stuff. And that's the first step, is just that education of, is this even a fit for you? We don't even need to talk about how you should do it. First, let's make sure if you should do it, why you should do it. And then when it's a good fit, and again, I mentioned earlier, it's not a good fit for everyone, but when it's a good fit, what are the steps of actually transition to that? What are the approaches into the model? Who are the various vendors and the solution providers and the folks in the industry that you'll need to work with? And that's where I really just help people walk through all of those steps. One, from both an awareness perspective, okay, you need to be aware of this, you need to be aware of this. And then how do we actually check each of those boxes to successfully get you to the other side with your own RA? And so it's certainly a process. It's not a 1 week type thing by any stretch of the imagination, but again, it's what I spend all my time studying, what I spend all my time doing, and that's able to pass that along to folks that understandably don't spend all their time doing this sort of thing.
Yeah, that's a really good analogy. I like that. You're really helping them own the McDonald's franchise. Except in this case, right, those of us that understand the industry as an RIA, like you're independent of a broker dealer. I understand, there may be some affiliations with the broker dealer, if you're going to do annuities or something, that they're not completely pure RIAs. But for you, you're truly helping them to become independent, start their own thing, leave the broker dealer. You're not simply transferring them from broker dealer to broker dealer, or is there some cases when they are going to another broker dealer? Curious.
Yeah, there's some cases where a broker dealer could still be involved, and that's actually a huge misconception about the RA model, is that the only way into it is to be 100% fee only. And there's certainly many RAs that operate 100% fee only, and then there's other advisors that have some meaningful amount of commission business that is generally trail revenue off of long held positions. And there's a reason it makes sense to leave the client in those positions. And so to make a move of their advisory assets to the RA side, they still have a need or want to be able to maintain that commission part of the practice. And so there are solutions of how you can do that. Again, an example of what I help advisors understand how that works and who the players are on that. But yeah, the typical advisor at one large traditional broker dealer that is solely interested in moving to another large traditional broker dealer, that's not my wheelhouse. I unapologetically stay in the lane of people that want to go down the RA model, and that's where I'm an expert in.
Love that. So yeah, I brought that up because I know that's the case. Like they're not always 100% fee only. There might be fee based. They may still have commission products. But being in the industry, a lot of us, we know these differentials. But so you're helping them no matter what they want to do. If they want to be 100% fee based, great. If they want to transition and have another broker dealer, fantastic. Do you have relationships with those other broker dealers? Are you like, hey, here's like maybe the better way, instead of like a McDonald's analogy, is you're more like a franchise professional who regardless of your franchise, or if you want to start your own franchise, like you're going to help consult with them, because it's not like you have one franchise. You're not saying, hey, here's McDonald's. That would be, I have other friends out there who are recruiting for other broker deals, like, hey, come in and purchase this with them. But so in that, at least for me, that kind of helps me understand where you're at. And the listeners as well. Do you have relationships with these other broker dealers that would be beneficial for them to say, hey, yeah, let's be fee based, but not 100% fee only. And here's who I would use.
Yeah. Not just solely do I have relationships with other broker dealers, just all the players in the space, whether custodians or existing RAs or whatnot. So to expand on that, which is a good point on the McDonald's analogy. So there was a time in one of the motivators to go back to what we talked about towards the top of the conversation about, me starting my firm, was one of my positions was working for a custodian as a business development person. So I was out there telling the story about the RA model, how it works, all the education part. But my job was to sell that particular RA custodial solution. And it was a great solution for some advisors. And quite frankly, it wasn't a good solution for other advisors, or even further, some advisors, because maybe they have commission business, where the case it just couldn't work for them. And so part of one of my motivators is to say, hey, I wanted to be, which is what I've now done, completely independent of all those, so I can help advisors walk down a multiple different paths that is, I know it sounds cliche, but surprise, to do what's best for the advisor, not just the one particular thing I might be representing. And there's some fantastic people that are in that situation that are selling a particular solution and, try to be very genuine about it. I just wanted completely agnostic. And so to use your McDonald's, the further analogy would be, okay, I help people that want to be a franchise owner,
right?
But I don't represent just McDonald's. I represent all the opportunities, or I want to say all because there's endless supply, but the majority of the opportunities out there.
Well, and it's kind of like a business. What do they call them? They help people buy and sell businesses.
Like a business broker.
Thank you. Yeah. So it's not like you're trying to sell them on a specific solution, but you truly are helping them become an RIA, whether that's 100% fee based or a mix and keep their commission stuff, which that's fine. Like everybody has their own thing, and the fee based is great. Fee only, that's fine. If you're commission only, that's fine. I think the biggest thing is just represent yourself the way that you're represented, but don't just differentiate yourself with that. I think that is the problem of this industry, is the marketing is, well, I'm fee based. Well, yeah, but there's a million other people who are, okay, not a million, but a lot of that are. And so what is your differentiating, factor? Who do you serve? How do you serve them? I think that's more important, but this is great. I can really see now how you can help, my audience, advisors, really gain this balance back. And maybe for a while they are a little bit off balance, like you said, but at least they have you, right? At least they have someone walking next to them down, the street, so to say, in my analogy there, to keep them from getting off track too far, right? And having to do some things that they need to, that might cost them a little bit of time, but is in the end going to be better. Like the not analogy, but the actual example you used of an advisor who just can't make the time to get ahead. That is exactly where, those are the advisors who I reach, advisors who I can see really could use your help if they're thinking about this transition. So guys and gals, if you're interested and you want to reach out to Brad, I would highly recommend it. It's a great experience of just being able to chat with you today. Brad, how do they find you? Where do they go to get some more information or connect with you? What social, what websites do you want to do? We'll obviously include that in the podcast notes.
Yep. And I appreciate you having me on. Great conversation, fun conversation. Hopefully we've shared some good stories. I'm a big believer in stories can kind of hit home. So hopefully they've hit home with some folks. So yeah, anyone that wants to learn more about me, I say this frequently, I'm a big proponent, as opposed to giving you my phone number or email address. I'm a big believer. I got to demonstrate my expertise, demonstrate my value first. So I just encourage you, if you'd like to learn more, go to my website, transition2ria.com. I have all kinds of videos, podcasts, white papers, all sorts of things that are free for the taking to help you learn more about the model. And if what you're seeing resonates, if what you're seeing with me providing value resonates, it makes it very easy on the website there to reach out and contact me. And also feel free to find me on LinkedIn, quite as are you, Travis, quite active on LinkedIn. So Brad, and then the last name, Wales, happy to connect with folks.
Love it. Yeah, I've been to your website. I love that it's transitioned to RIA. It's pretty simple for people to find. You've got videos, podcasts, white papers, all sorts of info there. Reach out and connect with Brad. Active on LinkedIn as I am as well, and definitely connect with him there. It was great to have you on the show, my friend. Thank you for being here, for helping us, help advisors and ourselves to be better balanced and share with us, your knowledge and information.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having me on. And I encourage everyone to take to heart the message you're putting out there. Because like I said, we've seen folks that are certainly struggling with it. And I think there's opportunity to bring a lot more balance and joy to their life if they're willing to kind of learn how to do so. So thanks for all you do as well.
Appreciate it. So guys, go to transition2ria.com, connect with Brad. If you haven't picked up the book, it should be available on audio at this point when we've got this podcast out. Go to achievingbalancebook.com, pick that up. And thanks again for being here.